And then with all the volatility going on, there's no other, to me, ultimate safe haven asset than gold.
Right, but physical,
Physical.
in your possession,
Absolutely.
right? Because that's the only, and private, that's why they hate it.
Private
It's
is
so
good too because
right.
put it in the bank. Yeah, put it in one of those safety
Yeah.
deposit boxes. They'll let you go in there and get it out anytime you want. Sure.
I'd like to thank you for coming today and joining us for Coffee with Lynette. I cannot even tell you how excited I am to be here with someone that I don't really think needs a lot of introduction, Gerald Celente, but I'll introduce you anyway. He's been writing about trends since 1980. He has the Trends Journal. You'll find the links to his website and his YouTube channel below. And if you want to know tomorrow's newspaper today, this is who you should talk to, and this is who we get to talk to today. Thank you so much
thank you
for
for
allowing me into, I mean, I grew up coming to this market when I worked around the corner at the bank, so this has been down memory lane, but I'm so happy to be here today.
I'm so grateful that you're here. And of course, it's a lot different than when it was the market, isn't it?
It is, but you still have the signage
yeah.
and the tint, so
Yeah.
it's wonderful. Yeah. Well, we have a lot of things to talk about, and the first thing I want to ask you really is what motivates you to do this work? You've been doing it for a long time. Why?
I don't know, just what happened was, you see there's pictures of me and Reagan and Connolly and this one, that one. I was down in D.C. back in the 70s. I was the chief government affairs specialist for the chemical industry. And before that, I was the assistant to the secretary of the New York State Senate and designed and instructed American politics and campaign technology, taught at St. John's University. And I always had this political kind of background, you know. I ran a mayoral campaign. I was the #2 guy right out of graduate school in Yonkers, New York. And what happened was back in the 70s, Jimmy Carter was president at the time.
I remember.
And the Iranian crisis was going on. And most people, you know, all they know is the headlines, like, hate the Russians, you know, let's hate the Russians. I'll tell you, them Iranians, they're the worst terrorist group in the whole wide world. They haven't invaded a country, by the way, in about 250 years, but that's only a fact. And the reason why they overthrew the Shah is that people don't know the history. That the United States, the CIA and English with the MI6, the two security agencies, in 1953 overthrew the democratically elected government of Mossadegh. And in 2017, not ancient history, they finally released the hidden documents that we, the people, aren't allowed to look at because it's going to interfere with our security and they're going to bomb us, you know. All that crap that they keep shoving down our throat not to let us in the democracy know what went on. They finally released it. It never made any of the American papers.
Isn't that interesting?
It only made the Financial Times and other papers overseas. And in that document, there's Winston Churchill, who everybody loves, said, we need their oil, Iranians. What Mossadegh did was he had the gall, the nerve, the disrespect to tell Anglo-Iranian Oil, better known as BP today, and Standard Oil, better known as ExxonMobil, that no, we own the oil, you don't. He nationalized the oil. Churchill called for the overthrow of Mossadegh. The United States, Teddy Roosevelt's grandson, very much involved in the CIA, they overthrew and they tortured all of the resistance. The Savak, the secret police, were among second to the SS. So anyway, going how I got into this. What happened was Jimmy Carter, now I'm watching these riots. I'm watching millions of people out in the streets. You remember. I'm saying, oh, this thing's real. This thing's coming down. And Jimmy Carter comes back from spending New Year's Eve with the Shah and his wife. And, you know, they got out of the helicopter and they salute those guys, you know, all dressed up in their little uniforms. And he goes to the podium and he says, the Shah is the island of stability in the Middle East. And at that moment, I became a political atheist. I'd been around politics long enough. Everybody, Google up the definition of politician. A person that holds office, blah, blah, blah. The second one is someone who is manipulative and devious to gain advancement within an organization. So if you like a politician, that's who you like. So I see this going on and and I said to myself, as everybody said, we hate them Iranians, they're lousy Iranians. And I'm saying to myself, what will be the implications? And I realized that gold and oil prices would go up. So here I am, a young guy, and I start playing the futures market on oil and gold, not getting caught up in who I like, what I believe in. You know, if you've got your own fairy tales, keep them to yourself. I'm only interested in the data.
Right.
And that allowed me to quit my job. I took $5,000 and I gambled it into almost $750,000. But I also lost most of it. And that's how I learned about the futures market, what goes on. And so I do it, it's because, again, the ancestors all back there. My mother, may she rest in peace. When I was a little boy, before I knew what the word meant, and there was something going on and she didn't like it, and she'd go to me, I hate cowards. So I heard that a couple of times, and I would never be a coward to disrespect my mother.
Right.
And my father, may he rest in peace, when I'd repeat anything, he'd give me a disgusted look, and in Italian he'd say to me, papagallo, parrot. Stop repeating what everybody else is saying and think for yourself. So I guess I do what I do because of where I came from and what they've given me. And I couldn't be me if I was born in Altavilla Pino, Ivica Quenz. I'm me because I'm an Italian born in the Bronx. And they gave me the freedom to be who I want and proud to be an American in the truest sense that this is my country. Love it, leave it. No, you leave it. That's why I bought those historic buildings on the most historic four corners and launched Occupy Peace. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in the Declaration of Independence. I don't believe in someone who's manipulative and devious to gain advancement within an organization. How dare they destroy what made this place the place it was? So that's why I do it.
I'm glad that that happened. And you know, when you were talking, part of what I thought is my father always used to say to me, do what I say and not what I do. And I used to say to him, Daddy, that doesn't make sense to me. And so working around the corner, you know, I came from an economic background where I was always in banking and then I was a stockbroker and all of that. But that's why I watch what the central bankers, I listen to what they say, but then I go underneath and I look at what they do. And you can see the loss of integrity.
Oh, there's no integrity.
None at all.
This country doesn't count.
Right.
I'm thinking about all the school violence, you know.
Oh.
And welcome to the violent states of America. We got to take out that guy. We got to kill that one. We're the bombs away. Dun, 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 boom, boom, boom. Go to the movies. Go to the internet. Go play the games. Violence is all they sell. Wonder why the kids screwed up. Can't figure it out. Maybe we should put together a blue ribbon committee. Yeah, and it couldn't be the drugs they got shooting these kids up too. But.
Right, pharmaceuticals.
Oh yeah, no,
which of course it's all about follow the money, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, the ads for the antidepressants, you know. Oh, and it'll make you suicidal. Oh, great, man, terrific. Wonder why the people go nuts.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit before this, and you were saying that it was during Clinton that allowed the the pharmaceuticals to start to advertise.
That's right.
Right? Well, why? Why would they allow that?
Why? I can't figure it out. Oh, I know. They call it campaign contributions, with adults called bribes and payoffs.
Right.
What do you think the Clinton Foundation got billions of dollars for? Because they like them? Oh, and all you liberals out there, do you love eating them GMOs? Thank the Clintons, yeah.
But part of that, too, is that it dulls your senses. So that you really, you know, if you're doing all of these pharmaceuticals or eating poorly in the food as well, then it's harder for you to think clearly and see things that you should be seeing because it impacts your whole life, not just the sickness, but it allows them to get away with as much as they do.
Yeah. And the politicians do it. They sell us out.
Absolutely. And they sell us out to the central bankers, which is basically my favorite topic, because I think that's really the entities that are driving this whole boat. And most of them come from Goldman Sachs.
No. Well, who's the guy that's the head of the central bank in the UK? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't he with Goldman Sachs? And that guy Draghi over there in the European, wasn't he with the head of the European division of, yeah, it was
What
Goldman
a shocker.
Sachs. Yeah, I know.
How about
I can't
in
think-
England?
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I meant. Yeah, the guy in the UK. Yeah, Carney.
Carney.
Carney man. Yeah.
So it's a revolving
Yeah.
door. But you know, it's interesting with what's happening with Goldman is because at the moment they're going down for the lower level, more public. Have you noticed that? They want to rob you more, I don't know, directly.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. But I was listening to one of your interviews, and you mentioned that the central banks were losing control. So would you explain that a little bit more?
Well, they were losing control when you saw things like Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies popping up. And then you can see what's going on and how they're... First of all, we said right away, again, I mentioned to you that I began my career tracking trends, playing the futures market. And I realized, what a rigged game that one is.
Oh, yeah.
Naked shorts. Now, that's not me too. I'm not saying anything about you make those kind of... Be careful. I don't want to...
Okay.
I meant the other side
It's
of the
early
naked
in the
short.
day.
All right. And so what's going on when they allowed the cryptos to go on the futures exchanges, I said, this is the end of this game. You're going to start seeing a lot of shorts hitting this market. And it went from $20,000 for a Bitcoin to around $8,000, $9,000 as we're speaking now. But that's the alternatives to the central banks, and that's why they hate them so much. And number two is the populist movements that are going on.
Right.
And the ones that happen in Germany, the one that happened in Austria, Hungary. And again, people say, I hate that guy. I don't care what you like or hate. I'm saying that's what's going on. Oh, the one that happened in Italy with the Cinque Stelle, the Five-Star Movement. And they merged with Lega Norte, that's now Lega, and they want a break away from central powers. They want their own currency back.
But part of the problem, and when I'm looking at the cryptocurrencies, and I know that that's inevitable, that's the direction that we're going in, but they also knew that we needed to have a trustless system, because by the time this whole thing evolves, nobody's going to trust the current financial system, the politicians, or the bankers. But what's amazing to me is how much confidence people still have in the central bankers when, at least when they're up there talking, they're never right.
No, they're never right. The facts are there. Bernanke said there was not going to be a real estate market.
Right, this is contained, this is contained.
Yeah.
So I find that it's really interesting, and I personally, I think that it's being used. First of all, I think the NSA created the cryptocurrencies, and I don't really think it's a coincidence that it came out in, let's see, was that March or April of 2009? It did take a while to go up, but they're saying that it's going around the system, where if it has to travel on a computer network, and we know that there's surveillance all over the place. I mean, on every street corner, they can watch you through all the computers and your cell phones, etc. So I'm not really sure personally that that's a particularly truly private way to transact.
Oh, no, I don't think anything is. And they're watching everything that we do. The thing that didn't make the news one day, the NSA was spying on us. They watched, 530 million of our phone calls last year?
Right.
Oh, yeah, and they got all them terrorists, too, Oh, boy, they really saved us. How many years this has been going on? And this is our money going down the garbage can with these guys. But I agree with you. It's not a solution, but I really don't think in my heart that anybody's going to stop the banksters. I really don't.
I'm hoping that with our work, if more people are aware of what's happening, then it's more challenging. They're going to have to come up with a different way to do it, because what they're talking about once we go all digital is the ability to lifetime tax and to track what
That's
you
why they want
earn
it,
and
yeah.
what you spend.
That's why they're doing it.
Exactly.
And it's happening in China. People, you know, it's with your app.
Right.
They're not using credit cards or cash.
Nope.
That's why Modi, 2016 election day
Right.
in the United States, November
Oh,
8th.
shocker.
Yeah, when nobody was watching, called in 86% of their cash.
Well, and you know, it was U.S. Oh, the name escapes me right now, but it was a U.S. government agency that was very proud and instrumental in helping them pull that off, though I'm not sure how successful that was. But I'd like to go back to China for a minute, because, you know, you talk about them using their apps, which they are. They're pretty much going cashless. That is a technocracy. They've done a lot to boost their population more into middle class. But what they're also doing is they're going from a manufacturing base into a consumer-driven base. So what happens, I mean, we did that in the 20s, you know, the turn of the century. They transitioned us from an agricultural base into, I mean, what is it, 70% of the GDP is all consumer-driven. So at the one hand, you know, China's now boosting that area to help boost their GDP, but nothing happens in China without the approval of the government, obviously. You know, and when you're looking at them politically, well, now they have one leader for life. Isn't that a nice thing to be able to do?
Those lousy commies. Remember when we grew up in the Cold War? Those
remember
dirty
that.
commies. They had us hiding under desks, you know. Yeah,
Right,
that was going to
because of a
save us.
nuclear
Yeah.
bomb is
Oh,
gonna-
yeah, they're foof. Oh, but you were under the desk. And when you got bigger, they had you stand up against the wall with your hands behind your head. Yeah, I mean, look how they taught. Remember the Vietnam War? Oh, what about the North Korean War? I forgot about that one. How we were turned
Right.
to hate the communists, and now China, they just celebrated the 200th anniversary of Karl Marx, and the Prime Minister of China, the President of China, was, you know, saying what a great communist country it is. But it's okay
Right.
now to do business with the communists.
Well-
But when they want you to kill them, boy, you know, you better. Vietnam, you know, I was that age.
Right.
Going back to it, the business of China is business. America's an outside-in run operation. They're an inside-out.
Out.
You made it clear the government's running the show. Here, the politicians get the pressure from all the different interest groups. So
Right.
they have a direction. Yes, they're building their consumer base. Go back to who put us, China, those lousy commies, into the World Trade Organization? Bill Clinton. They didn't sign on to it until 2 weeks after 9/11, when no one was paying any attention.
Right. Right. I mean, that's the way they get away with a lot of things.
Right.
By distraction and
Yeah.
then,
So now, when China signed on to the WTO, 5% of its population was middle class. Today, 35%. Going back to making it a consumer society. Now, 35%, I'm not really good at numbers, but of 1.3 billion,
that's their population.
yeah, bigger
Yeah.
than the United States. So
Yeah.
they got more middle class than we have people. What happened is it was very simple. The manufacturers in this country and on the retailers, all they did was want to get stuff made by slave labor, bring it back over here and sell more of it and mark up the price. So they gave away all our technology.
Yes. Yes.
And that's why they're now moving into high tech with the Made in China 2025. But the other thing is, not only are they going consumer, they're going the One Belt.
Yes, the Silk Road.
That's right. And so one country after another. The business of China is business. The business of America's war.
Right, so they're building things and we're tearing it down.
Right. So now, going back to the central banks and the dollar, people saying, is China going to take over with the petro yuan and on and on? It has a long way to go, as I see, but it could happen like that. And you made the perfect analogy. When America went consumer after World War I, and what happened to the UK after all their wars? Their pound wasn't worth a penny compared to the dollar.
Yes.
And the dollar became the dominant currency. I believe we're in that transaction period now. While it's small now, and the Chinese reserves are, what, 3%, 2.5% of the reserve currency is.
Right. Slow.
Everything in place now with the sanctions on Iran, with the pressure on Russia, you're going to see more and more countries abandoning the dollar. And I believe it could happen very quickly, even though it's at a small point right now.
Well, I would agree with that. And part of what I think, as far as China's concerned, is they were entered into the SDR basket through the IMF. And I think that it's really, a lot of people want to say, well, that's them, this is us, and so they create all these distractions. But I really think that since the IMF is made up of almost every Treasury Secretary and every central bank chief, and they're all above the law and talking together, I think that it's really a globalist movement. And,
Oh, it is, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think with the SDR, I mean, that was created in '69 to take over as the world reserve currency at that point. But what also happened, there's always all of these distractions. Now, China, not being a democracy, I think that is the global blueprint. That's the direction that they want. It's much easier to control.
Yeah, you were in control.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I've seen in the patterns that I've witnessed is I've studied currency life cycles since '87. And there are certain common things that happen right around every life cycle. So there's always a war.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Of course, the stock markets are run up before, so there's always a stock market crash. There's always civil unrest. So I don't really think that it's a coincidence that we had the civil rights movement, right around the '70s. And here again, we're going to a next level of a civil rights movement. I mean, we see what's been happening at Starbucks and other places. They've got to retrain. And interestingly enough, at least the last times in this country, right, there was a suffragette movement right around World War I, when they were transitioning us from a gold standard to a fiat standard. In '71, there was women's lib, which I was part of, and my mother was horrified, right? But today, we have the Me Too movement, so that too is ratcheting up. And, is it all a coincidence? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's a pattern of distraction.
Yeah, I agree. It's a cycle, as you were saying earlier. And with China, to me, they're taking over in so many different ways.
Exactly.
And America's just keeps going lower and lower. I mean, you see the numbers that come out and how,
Right.
The gap between the rich and the poor is the widest in the United States of any of the industrialized nations.
And pretty close to where it was in '28
Yeah.
and '29. So I don't think that's a coincidence either, because the whole fiat system is really set up as a wealth transfer mechanism. And if they can lull you into a false sense of security, which unfortunately a lot of people are, because the dollar can never go away. And they knew that people marry the legal money of the state. And I don't know whether or not, because I just saw this in a piece that I did, so I always pull up the purchasing power of the dollar from the Federal Reserve. We broke 4 cents.
Wow.
Exactly. We broke 4 cents.
Great, yeah.
So if you guys don't know that.
I know it was down 95%. I didn't know it was that low, yeah.
Yeah, officially, we are
yeah.
now at 3.99 cents
Wow.
of the original purchasing power of the dollar.
Yeah, they did a great job, yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, rah.
Yeah.
And so part of what I'm seeing as the stock market is, near all-time highs, the most expensive stock market in history, and I want to talk to you about the correction that we're in right now, because that I think is really interesting. But that's just a blinding tool. We're blinded by numbers. We say, oh, look at that, that's going up. But if the foundation is going to zero, well, 1 trillion times zero is still zero. Now, I know that you forecast a 10% correction this year. Before anybody else did, and in the face of a stock market that couldn't correct even 1.5% over a long period of time. So, and we do know I think we both agree that the tax changes and the repatriation was done to keep the stock market up.
Absolutely.
So what do you make of this correction that we're in right now?
It's temporary. And again, you look at the stock buybacks are at record levels.
Right.
Merger and acquisition activity at record levels for this short a time in the year. And you can see with in the UK, they said, well, we might raise interest rates in 2019 or 2021. I'm not sure. It's like, what is it? 0.05% or something like that.
It's a joke.
And then the UK, the Eurozone, they're not going to raise them until 2019. And you see what happens every time the interest rates go up, or fear of interest rates. Oh, we have mortgage rates now at what, 7-year highs, right?
Right.
And you're seeing the strength of the dollar. And
Well, we should actually talk about the strength of the dollar.
the strength of the dollar is
too
only because the other ones are so weak.
Exactly.
Right.
3.99 cents on the purchasing power of the dollar.
But they're in such, when you talk about China, the debt to GDP ratios in what, 300 or something.
Right.
Japan's like 280 something, 250 something. So so the reason the dollar is strong is because so many of the other ones are so weak.
Exactly.
So now going with the economy and the stock markets, they cannot take an interest rate rise.
Right.
If they have more than two by the end of this year, this thing is going to go down. And then there's the geopolitical unrest going on all throughout the Middle East. Oh, by the way, very important. You know, the crown prince. Imagine calling somebody a crown prince. Grow up.
Right.
A crown prince. You know how he became a prince, right?
Would you explain that to us, please?
Yes. A princess kissed the frog, and the frog became a prince. Everybody knows these stories.
You're right.
It was a gang.
My grandfather used
yeah.
to tell me those stories.
There's a gang that began in 1934, the Saudi gang. Anyway, go back to the end of April, and there was a breaking story that there were toy zone. What do you call those things that fly?
The drones?
Drones. A toy drone flying over the Saudi castle over there. And there was gunfire. He hasn't been out and about since that time. He may have been assassinated.
Oh.
The other one, and I'm only reading this from the Iranian news, FARS agency, Iranian news agency, is the only place I'm finding it. And the other thing is that he was supposed to show up for a couple of different ceremonies, and he hasn't. So, going back to, how did I get to the Crown Prince? What were we talking about? I said, because this is important because he was all over the country, driving up oil prices. What was it?
I was going there, so go ahead and talk about the oil.
What were we talking about that I lost my train of thought?
Megan?
You remember that? Anyway, we got to cut that part out of it.
We'll take care of that.
So anyway.
But actually, they'll think it's live, so we'll see.
But anyway, so going back, we were talking about the economy, what's going on. Oh, the Middle East. The Middle East. That place is ready to explode with the wars there.
Right.
And we saw what Trump did with Iran, pulling them off, putting more, Pompeo, however he pronounces his name, Katsona is what I would call him, but from where I come from. They're putting the strongest sanctions ever on Iran.
No, okay. That's okay.
Strongest sanctions ever on
Sorry,
Iran.
I don't want it.
All right. And now you're going to see more destabilization there. Mm-hmm. Oil prices are going up sharply.
Right.
We were talking about how people can't afford it right now. The average price now of oil in the United States is $3 a gallon, for gasoline, rather. That's sucking out $30 billion out of the economy.
But wait, we just got a tax break.
And it goes back to, that's all Trump did, was enrich the rich. The numbers are there from the Tax Policy Center. 1% got 82% of all the benefits.
Right.
So going back to the markets.
And theirs are permanent, and ours are temporary.
Right. Well, 7 years or something they're going to be. So going back to the rising interest rates, you already see what's going on. You're seeing mortgage refinancing numbers going down. The markets can't take rising interest rates, and the economy can't either.
Right. All that debt has to roll over.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, if interest rates go up and we have this huge debt, public debt, oh, don't you have to pay more money now as interest rates go up?
Of course.
Now you see what's going on with the bond yields. So people are going to be abandoning stocks and going into bonds as the yields go higher. The market cannot take a shock. And right now it's being held up to me with the cheap money, as you mentioned, with the tax repatriation from overseas and all of the lower tax breaks. It's only temporary. And to me, what's going to crash the market is a wild card, and it goes back to what's going on in the Middle East with the Yemen war, with the Syrian war, with things heating up with Iran and Israel. To me, if there is an outbreak of war in the Middle East, kiss the markets goodbye. We cannot withstand higher oil prices. Now, this is the other thought, the stronger dollar. What's going on here? Let's go take a trip to Argentina. I hear we get a lot of value for our buck.
Exactly.
What did they raise their interest rates to 40%? The Turkish lira diving. All of the emerging markets that borrowed all of this cheap money
in terms of dollars,
in dollars, that have to pay it back in dollars as their currencies are going down the crapper.
Right.
So this thing is ready to go. And as you pointed out, the PE ratios are at historic highs, depending on whose numbers you're looking at.
Right. And you know what I think is really interesting about there's a couple things in there. Number one piece that I do every Wednesday is what the insiders are doing. And so I track in the Wall Street Journal, I publish the buys and the sells, and then I'll usually take one stock and show you. Of all of the stocks that I've done even over the last year, I can tell you that the only one where we're seeing more buyers than sellers is ExxonMobil, and that started about 12 months ago.
Wow.
But this is when they made that oil pact to limit the amount of oil. So oil, I'm going to switch over here to Saudi Arabia back for a minute. They want to bring out Aramco. And when they first started talking about it, I think oil was maybe $43, $44 a barrel. Well, they're not going to bring that public into that kind of market. So it was really inevitable. And plus, they have built so many social programs based on, I think it's somewhere around 92, you might know this, $92 a barrel is they need in order to break even, right, with their social programs. So no way would they bring Aramco out at $40 a barrel.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So this was not really a shocker. And they're going to extend limiting oil production too. And I also think that has to do with Iran's oil, just like it had to do with Iraq's oil when we went into Iraq. So there are a few pieces, that are in here, but not only can this consumer not afford higher oil, it's probably not really necessary, but I also think that the fiat system, based upon constantly compounding debt, is essentially over. You've got 90% of the world or more anchored at 0% and going into negative rates, and now you've got different central banks at different speeds, and we're trying to raise it up to what, 3.25%?
Yeah, like big deal,
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Because I believe the average rate, every time we've entered a recession, the average level that they've had to drop it is like 5.5%, 5.75%.
Oh, they won't be able to do that.
Right.
They won't be able to put any juice back into it.
Which is why they want us to decash.
Yep. Oh, well, I agree. No, they wanted every penny that we spend. They want their money. And and going back to oil and rising prices. Go back to all the recessions. Every time oil hit that new high, the markets went crashing down. What was oil? $150 a barrel.
Yeah.
Just before the 2008 crash.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you go back to in 1999, on and on.
Yep.
You keep going back, rising oil prices. That's always been, most of the time, it's been a signal. And again, and then we're talking about emerging markets.
Right.
How about that place called India? They got another 1.3 billion people.
Hey, but they're doing really well, I hear.
Yeah, and don't they import a lot of oil?
Yeah.
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 Oh, and now the price of oil's going up?
Huh.
And how about that economy in Europe that's slowing down by all the data coming in? All the data, particularly in Germany, which is the driving engine. So now what's going to happen when oil prices keep going higher?
Well, if they can create enough inflation, I don't know, even hyperinflation, then the GDP is going to look great. People are forced to spend more for all of their goods and services. I mean, a good part of the GDP is based on inflation. But also talking about India, just kind of going there for a second, they've been trying to dematerialize gold for quite some time.
They're the biggest buyers, the people, the individuals,
Because they've lived through this and certainly lived through, dare I say it, but England's rape of their natural resources. So this is how they hold their wealth. And when they were doing the, demonetizing their currency, they also went door to door collecting jewelry.
Yep.
So, you've got to be really quite careful. Why would they do that if gold is just an old relic?
Yeah. And that's, of course, why they're trying to stop cryptocurrencies. Because when you look at the cryptocurrency rise in Bitcoin, it was when the Chinese yuan was going down.
Right.
And the people
were
bailing out and trying to secure their money. And so they banned Bitcoin and Bitcoin exchanges and Bitcoin trading. So I don't think the fiat currencies are ever going to go away.
In one form or another,
They're going to do something to keep this Ponzi scheme going. And on gold, I've been saying this over 4 years, that gold has to break over 1385 solidly an ounce. And when it hits 1450 and really sticks there, it's going to take a Bitcoin bounce in terms that it's going to skyrocket toward 2000.
Mm-hmm. But that's still way below its true value.
Exactly.
For the reset.
Yes.
Right?
But so we're saying, though, the real breakout point's 1450. Our downside, and I've been saying this now is $100 to $150. Right now we're seeing $100, so $1,200. Now, $1,200, and I don't give financial advice to make that clear, everyone. Think for yourself.
Yeah, I think everybody should think for themselves
think
and follow all the links and everything to do your own due diligence.
And so when you look at the average of what it's cheaper in Peru and more in South Africa to pull it out of the ground, but you're looking at an average, depending on whose numbers you look at, of around $1,200 an ounce to pull the stuff out of the ground.
Right.
So I can't see it going below that because why should I pull it out if I'm going to lose money, So to us, that's the downside. And as a trader, that's a small downside, $100 in this game.
Right.
And then with all the volatility going on, there's no other, to me, ultimate safe haven asset than gold.
Right. But physical. In your possession.
Absolutely.
Right. Because that's the only, and private. That's why they hate it.
Private is good too because put it in the bank. Yeah, put it in one of those safety deposit boxes. They'll let you go in there and get it out anytime you want. Sure. You can't go in here. We got terrorists we got to clear out all of these safety deposit boxes. We don't know what terrorists put in there. You can't open them. They'll make up some BS story to rob you of every penny that you have because after all, they'll rob you of your life based on wars, based on lies. They'll rob you of your money so they can keep stealing more of it as they continually do. I got one for you. In this great democracy you mentioned before you used the word. Yeah, too big to fail.
Which are even bigger.
Right, there's no such thing in a democracy as too big to fail.
Correct. Or in real capitalism.
Yeah, exactly. That's fascism.
Right. Exactly.
According to Mussolini, a paisano, not exactly a great guy, but the merger of state and corporate powers. And that's what we have now. That's his definition. And one after another have sold us out.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that goes back to your definition of a politician.
Yep.
Or the definition.
The definition.
Right.
Google it up. And going back to gold and not putting it in, you said put it in a private place.
Correct. Right. I mean, they'd love you to hold everything in the system. Also...
Don't keep it in your house. They'll know exactly all the crap you got all over the place. They're going to find you got a little box of gold that big,
Right.
But make you afraid. They'll keep making you
Exactly.
afraid.
That's perception management. That's what they call it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that
That's
is
it.
actually the official term
That's
of
right.
it. You were with Reagan, back then, and he was the one with Rupert Murdoch that actually coined that
I didn't.
and
That's
really
a great
started
thing.
to formalize that, which
Yeah.
is really interesting. And I know
That's a great term.
Oh, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's what they do. They create your perception, and
That's
then you
it,
move
boy.
forward
Oh,
in the way
everybody-
that
Oof,
they want
yeah.
you
Oh,
to.
yeah. Yeah, people just repeat the buzzwords coming out from the one-sided media.
Exactly. But there is something that I wanted to talk to you about, because I know I don't want to run over too much. I really respect your
Oh, no,
time
that's
on
right. No,
this.
it's great to hear.
But I wanted to talk to you about what's happening with the LIBOR. Because personally, they've got to, you've got what, well, nominal, which means who knows how much value really there is. But you've got 370 trillion contracts that are tied to the LIBOR, which they've now announced, basically it's the Bank of England, has announced that they'll no longer require the 18 banks to give their opinion on what that rate should be if they had to borrow or loan that money. They'll no longer require them to submit that. So the LIBOR is going away by the end of 2021. And you have all of these, any contract that matures after that date will have to be what they're calling amended and then tied to the new benchmark rate that they haven't even figured out what that's going to be, though you have 5 central banks that are working on that. And then they still have to develop a market for it. My personal feeling on this is that this is all intentional, because if people are feeling enough fear, they'll accept anything that you want to cram down their throats.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I'm thinking. Part of what's happening with the interest rates now decisively above 3%. Okay, and all of those derivative contracts tied to those interest rates, which are about 300 trillion, according to what they report. Who knows? In a banking system that's absolutely insolvent. I mean, Deutsche Bank's leverage ratio, they have the largest derivative book, is 3.8%. And last year, in a completely up market, their assets lost 7%? I don't even know how they did that. I mean, that's crazy, which means that they are a zombie bank, period.
Oh, yeah.
They're a zombie bank. So is it possible that this is all staged to create the crisis to get us to go along?
I don't think they'll stage it like this. I think they're doing this exactly what you said. They really don't know what they're doing in so many ways and how to pull it off. But they know they have a crisis that can't be fixed. We were talking about, again, the Bank of Japan. Negative bond yields. Okay, I got it. I'm going to buy a 10-year bond, and in 10 years, I'm going to get less money than I bought the bond for. Oh, it makes perfect sense. Great investment. Sign me up.
Right.
I mean, you can't make this crap up. I mean, right?
No, you can't.
No.
And this is a risk-free.
Yeah.
I love how they call government bonds risk-free or almost risk-free.
As your currency keeps getting devalued.
Right.
So going on to everyone, we talked about the European banks, they're not going to raise interest rates.
Right.
UK's not going to raise interest rates. The best of the United States, maybe what, 2 more times? What'd you say we'll be at?
Well, they're
Not
going
even.
for
They're
3 and a quarter,
right.
but I don't
And
think
that'll be
they're
a
going
couple
to
of
get
years
there.
away.
Right.
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 So they know they have a crisis that they can't fix.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, when people used to say to me, you said this thing was going to collapse again in 2012. I said, you're right, I did.
Look at the data.
Yeah. I never heard of
Data.
negative interest rates, zero interest rate policy, or quantitative easing. They didn't teach that in Economics 101.
Right, exactly.
Or any other economics courses.
Because it's
I'd
a
say.
big experiment.
Yeah. They said, so how am I supposed to know they're going to come up with this? So what
Right.
I'm saying is, you're dealing with sick people. You're dealing with thieves. They're going to make up anything they can to keep stealing your money
Yep.
so they could get richer. They just came out with a new study today showing how much more multi-billionaires were created.
But is that more of a reflection of the loss in value of the dollar?
It's the loss in value of living in slavelandia and working for the plantation
I like
owners.
that. Yeah, because
We have
unfortunately,
3
that's where we're
people in
going.
the United States, Bezos, Amazon, Gates, and Buffett, that have more money than 60% of us combined. And you know what they're doing with it? Bezos gave $55 million for gender studies. Yeah, $55 million. That's like
nothing.
leaving a big tip when you go out to a restaurant.
Right.
When you're worth $110 billion. And then we talk about the difference between this Gilded Age and the other one. Yeah, it was terrible what they were doing back then. And that guy Carnegie, but hey, how about that library system?
Right.
And those beautiful buildings.
And all of the museums.
And
the
all,
Whitney
yeah,
museums.
all the
and-
museums, right. One after another. And these guys give back pennies, and when they give it, all the little prostitutes out there pump them up how generous they are. Of course, talk about pumping them up. What does Gates do? Get you vaccinated. Yeah. We're
Right.
going to go vaccinate everyone. And by the way, I think I'll buy stock in those drug companies that are
Right.
doing the vaccinations, you know?
But I'm going to buy enough that I really control the company.
Yeah.
It's not really so much the stock because they know that it's overvalued. But if they can own enough of it, then they own the underlying company. And that's, I think that's what they're doing is they're converting it into tangible.
Well, I think, again, everything, when we're talking about, to me, the only thing that's going to break up the fiat system are populist movements throughout the
Right.
world.
Right.
And they're happening because why shouldn't anybody be anti-establishment?
You remember in the early 70s,
Yeah.
anybody over 30,
But how could you believe this garbage? What
Right.
else is the matter with you?
I
You're into the establishment?
I used to wonder, having studied currencies, I'd say, can't they see this coming? It's so obvious. But, now living through it, I think people don't like change and they don't bother to do their homework and they're all, they're not able to think clearly because of all the fluoride in the water and the food and the meds and all of this. But
I don't know. I think it's bigger than that. It goes back to my mother. That's her wedding picture over
Yeah,
there.
I love that you have your family behind you.
telling-
I do too. I love it.
Telling me, as a little boy, I hate cowards. And what I see is a country of cowards.
Yeah.
The men don't fight anymore. The women don't stand up and fight for. You needed a Me Too movement in my family. You try to give any of these women any garb, boy, you were in trouble.
Yeah.
They didn't take baloney from anybody.
Yeah.
You look at picture of my grandmother over there. Whoa, But that's, to me, is what happened. And people make excuses. Oh, it's aliens. No, it's the deep state. No, it's your courage
right.
not to do something to change it. They just
Right.
end of story.
Oh,
They
yeah.
just had an election over there in
I got
Armenia.
chills.
Armenia. This guy from nowhere just took over. Look what happened in Italy with the 5-star movement.
Right.
Started by Beppe Grillo, a comedian.
Right.
Look what's going on, whether you like them or not. The AfD party in Germany, the Freedom Party in Austria. And what do we got? I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican. You're a jerk if you
right.
believe in this garbage. Which murderer and thief do you like?
Yeah.
Oh, Obama wasn't bad. He didn't kill as many as Bush. Drone strikes over 4,000. Quote, I'm really good at killing people, folks. Oh, you like that troop surge. I remember that one in Afghanistan.
Right.
Folks, yeah. Hope and change you can believe in. Oh, Syria. That Assad has to go. Oh, Libya. Didn't he do a beautiful job in Libya?
Oh, he did.
I was going to go there for vacation in Tripoli this year. He made it so nice.
Oh, yeah.
As he gets on an airplane, after he makes his arrogant speech, takes his mother-in-law, his wife, and his kids on a trip to Rio. Minutes after he made that speech, overthrowing a country that did nothing to us, the richest country in Africa.
Right.
And you know why they went in there. It wasn't their oil. Same reason they went into Iraq.
No, why would they do that?
Iraq
No,
didn't have to.
right.
No, I think Libya has it only costs like 50 cents a barrel to pull it out of the ground. The people there had more than anybody anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Is Gaddafi yeah. As crazy as all the other lunatics. Name your person. Step right up. You got May, you got Merkel, you got Macron, you got Gaston. You got one after another. It's Remember when we were kids, it was the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus?
I do. I was even a docent in their museums in Sarasota, Florida.
All right. And it was what?
So,
the greatest show
on earth. No, this is the greatest show on earth.
No, this is the greatest freak show on earth.
Right.
It's
You're absolutely right.
a freak right in front of you.
Right.
My freak's better than your freak. I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican. Oh, who do you like? I know. Lindsay, did you come out of the closet yet, Graham? Nancy, out of your mind, Pelosi? Diane, not so Feinstein. Which one? Little Chucky Schumer?
How about Larry Summers? He's my favorite.
Listen here, what a loser he is.
Oh, my God.
An arrogant loser. Everything he's
Arrogant.
called is wrong. Oh, and he's the
Oh,
guy
but
that got us off the Glass-Steagall Act
Thank
thanks to
you.
Clinton.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, look at him. McConnell.
And they didn't do oversight on the OTC derivatives.
Yeah, no.
Which were all speculative.
Yep.
So
And arrogant. And the arrogance of these people.
Yes.
The arrogance.
Was it Lloyd Blankfein that said, "We are doing God's work"?
Yeah.
Oh,
God's work.
Robbie,
Yeah.
I mean-
Maybe the God you believe in. Hey, no, everybody got their God. My
Well,
God's
that's
the
a
real
good
God.
point.
Yeah,
That's a really
I'm going to
good
kill
point.
you. My God's the real God. How dare you not believe in my God? Blankfein's God is, we're going to steal your money and I'm going to get richer. That's my God.
Exactly.
Yeah? And they bow at the God of that altar. And that's what's going on. So to me, going back, there's never been a better time now for change in a positive way.
Yes.
And in talking about the cryptocurrencies, one of the changes I believe in is blockchain democracy.
If it creates that, because I can see a lot of good in it,
What? I only will
but
give you the
depends on who
example.
controls it.
Well-
Okay, good, please.
What's the richest country in the world?
Oh,
Where the people are
Well-
living the best, and they haven't been in a war since 1850s.
I don't know. Why don't you tell us?
Switzerland.
Oh, okay. Well, they're
Got a lot of dough over there.
Well,
Beautiful
they
place,
do.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
They have referendums. People vote on the issues. You want to go to war, we'll vote. You want to put minarets up and every 3 o'clock hear it, we'll vote. They are wise enough to know that politicians, people that are manipulative and devious to gain advancement within an organization, do not represent them. So they vote. So now blockchain democracy is, with blockchain, poof, once you make that exchange, it's blocked. You can't hack into it.
Right.
Look at the crappy election system we got now. You got to wait online for hours. Hey, you got any hanging chads this week? You know, how many elections are fixed everywhere?
Oh.
So now with blockchain democracy, boop, we all vote online. Vote on your phone.
Well, I would like that.
Open
actually.
to
Right.
the entire public to look at all the algorithms and everything else. So now, you want to go to war? You want that? You like that tax plan let us vote on it. So to me, that's the answer. And then people say, oh, people are too stupid. Oh, yeah, Paulie Ryan's brilliant, man. And Mitch McConnell, man. And John and Shane McCain. Oh, yeah, they're brilliant. We're too stupid. You know. So to me, that's the way out. Look at Switzerland.
You know what? That is that's a great idea.
Let us vote.
Blockchain democracy.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's where I could see like the best application. For it.
Exactly.
I'm really glad that we had this today. This has been, this has just been so much fun for me. I really, let me
So
get you a
yeah.
hug. Oh, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this because I know I certainly did. I can't really have a favorite, I suppose, but if I did, it would be this one.
Thank you.
So follow the links below. Sign up for it
thank
for
you.
Gerald's newsletter, please. Is there anything that you want to let
Well,
them
we're
know
talking about taking it out of the hands of government. Here we are in colonial Kingston, New York. Most historic Four Corners, third Dutch settlement. The only reason it wasn't the second one after New York City is because, remember, Henry Hudson, they thought they were going to find a short river to Asia. And they got stuck up there in Albany, so that was the second one.
Is that why it was?
Yeah, they
Oh,
didn't go up
okay,
any
that makes
further.
sense.
But anyway, here we are, the oldest building in America open to the public, the Senate House. Most of
Yes.
our Constitution came from the city, the courthouse over here, where John Jay was a judge, and Sojourner Truth, and the slave who was given. They took her son and sold him to another slave owner after she got her freedom and won the court case there. Here you have this beautiful, beautiful place. And if you want to see the stupidity of government, go down the street and take a look at the Ulster County office building. It's the perfect example of how they destroyed this country with their arrogant urban renewal.
Oh, I
And
remember.
put up a piece of crap square thing as they ripped down century-old buildings.
Yes.
Because we got stupid people running us and destroying our country. The same freaks you hated in high school and college that wanted to be class president and head of the student council. And now they're telling you how to run and ruin your life. So welcome to Kingston for the beauty of it. And there's a renaissance going on here now. They're calling it the second Williamsburg.
Oh,
Not Williamsburg down there, which it should be, the Williamsburg, Brooklyn, because the city up here doesn't know what they have.
right. I mean, I
yeah.
was raised here. I left
They don't
here when
know
I
what
was
they have.
17, and you were teaching me things that I didn't know. Though I used to go to the Senate House every time my sister brought me up here because my mother made her. I always went to the Senate House and Happy House, and I'd have my $1 and I'd buy my mom something at Happy House.
And now we have a great bar right across the street, Stockade. And the old place over there that used to be a DeSoto dealership is called the Senate Garage. And people from all over the states come here for weddings and the beautiful settings here. So the whole place has really changed.
It has, but I also got to see some of, I mean, there's a lot of nostalgia for me.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And this is part of it, because I used to buy my lunches
Yeah,
here.
this is an old like an old A&P.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
the
I
old Mohegan
remember
Market,
it.
yeah.
Well, thank you
thank
so
you.
much, Gerald. This has just been so much fun. And we'll see you. I'll be back in Arizona tomorrow.
All right,
And
thank
I'll
you for
see you
coming.
soon. Bye-bye.